Before the headlines break, before the shelves empty, before the panic truly begins, there's a silent threat already tightening around us, and most people are too distracted to see it. You won't find this on the news, but by early 2025, several critical supplies will be gone, faster than they vanished in any crisis before. I've studied the failures, the outbreaks, and the corporate cover-ups, and what I uncovered shocked even me. Stay with me, because number 9 is the item preppers hoard quietly, and it becomes worth more than cash when the economy slips. Number 1. Water infiltration. When an economic collapse hits, the very first system that starts failing is water. Not because the water disappears, but because the infrastructure that keeps it clean, pressurized, and safe becomes unreliable. You've already seen what happens when massive corporations can't even keep a sandwich clean. Outbreaks, contamination, and scandals that make headlines for years. Now imagine that same level of incompetence and chaos, but happening to the water supply flowing straight into your home. That's why in any crisis, water is your lifeline, and without it, every other prep instantly collapses. You can survive weeks without food, but only days without water, and even less if the water you have is contaminated. This is why your first priority is simple. Secure access to clean, drinkable water. No matter what happens to the grid, the power stations, or the treatment facilities, you need 3 layers. The first layer is stored water, a minimum of 1 gallon per person per day for drinking and basic hygiene. But realistically, in a long-term crisis, you want 30 to 60 gallons in rotation. Store it in BPA-free containers, label the date, and rotate every 6 months. This isn't optional. People who fail to store water always regret it. The second layer is filtration. A gravity-fed filter, like a ceramic or activated carbon system, gives you the ability to clean water from almost any source: lakes, taps, rain barrels, even questionable emergency supplies. And don't underestimate how fast contamination spreads. The same way restaurants had rats dropping from ceilings, kitchens overrun with insects, and outbreaks that sickened thousands, your municipal water can be just as vulnerable when oversight collapses. The third layer is disinfection. Unscented bleach, purification tablets, or even boiling when you still have fuel. 2 drops of bleach per liter can turn dirty water into something drinkable in minutes. If you do nothing else today, build your water foundation. Start by storing 10 gallons, then buy a gravity-fed filter, and finally add purification tablets to your emergency bin. Because when the taps stop running or the water turns brown, you won't rise to the level of your hopes. You'll fall to the level of your preparation. Number 2. Long-life food staples and rotation strategy. When the economy cracks, the first thing people panic buy is food. Shelves empty in hours, prices skyrocket overnight, and the food that is available becomes questionable in both quality and safety. We've seen this pattern over and over. Companies cutting corners, selling contaminated ingredients, serving spoiled produce, or passing off cheap, low-quality substitutes as fresh. If fast food giants with billion-dollar budgets can't keep their ingredients clean, imagine what happens when the entire supply chain is under stress and nobody is inspecting anything. That's why your survival depends on building a long-life food foundation that doesn't rely on stores, trucks, or corporations to keep you fed. Start with core staples that last decades when stored properly: rice, beans, oats, lentils, pasta, and wheat. These foods are high in calories, dense in nutrition, and extremely affordable right now. Rice and beans alone give you complete proteins, long-term energy, and stability during shortages. Add shelf-stable proteins: canned chicken, tuna, Spam, sardines, peanut butter, and you have the building blocks for survival meals that never expire when you need them most. Next comes freeze-dried and dehydrated foods, which can last 20-30 years in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers. These are your long-term insurance policy. They're lightweight, nutritious, and only require hot water. When the grid is unstable, when prices have doubled, or when the stores are looted, these foods become priceless. But having food isn't enough. You must rotate it. Use the FIFO method: first in, first out. Label everything with dates. Keep your daily use pantry separate from your emergency stores. Rotate canned goods yearly, dry goods every 2 to 3 years, and freeze-dried foods only when needed. This simple habit turns your stockpile into a living system instead of a forgotten closet. And don't ignore contamination risks. Just like chains serving mystery meat or bread that legally wasn't even bread, supply chains cut corners when desperate. That's why storing your own food protects you from their mistakes. Your action today is simple. Buy one extra week of staples, rice, beans, oats, and canned protein, and label everything. By the end of this week, you'll have taken your first real step toward food security, no matter how chaotic the world becomes. Number 3. Heat, cooking, and alternate energy. When the grid fails, and it eventually will during an economic collapse, the world changes instantly. You're not just losing electricity, you're losing the ability to cook, to boil water, to heat your home, to preserve food, and to sterilize anything that might make you sick. Think about how many fast food disasters from the transcript were caused by something as simple as an employee not cooking food to a safe temperature. Now imagine you can't cook at all because the power is out for weeks. That's why securing off-grid heat and cooking methods is one of the smartest moves you can make right now. Your first layer is portable cooking. A propane or butane stove is affordable, compact, and reliable. Even a basic 2-burner camp stove gives you the ability to cook rice, boil water, and make full meals. Stock extra fuel canisters, far more than you think you'll need. During crises, fuel becomes impossible to find. If you can cook while others can't, you're already ahead of 90% of your neighbors. Your second layer is solid fuel and no-power cooking. A simple rocket stove can burn sticks, twigs, scrap wood, anything dry. It's efficient, fast, and works even in poor weather. A solar oven is another underrated asset. It requires no fuel, no flame, and no noise. On sunny days, it can cook meat, boil water, and bake bread without using a single ounce of propane. Then comes heat. Winters become deadly when power is unreliable. A small indoor safe heater, a kerosene backup, or an insulated emergency shelter setup can literally save your life. You don't need to heat your entire home, just one room. Layer blankets, sleeping bags, and create a heat zone your family can retreat to when temperatures drop. Finally, consider backup energy. A small solar panel paired with a portable power station keeps phones, radios, lights, and essential devices running. You don't need a full solar array to stay functional. You just need enough to power communication and safety gear. Your action today: get a small camp stove and a few fuel canisters. Then practice cooking one meal without electricity. When the grid goes dark and panic spreads, you'll be the one calmly boiling water and feeding your family while everyone else is scrambling. Number 4. Medical basics and sanitation. When an economic collapse hits, medical systems don't just get slower, they fail outright. Hospitals overflow, pharmacies run dry, and supply chains buckle under panic and shortages. And remember the outbreaks and food poisoning disasters from the transcript? Those happened when society was fully functioning. People were getting E. coli from undercooked burgers, salmonella from vegetables, and viral contamination from sick employees who weren't even allowed to go home. Now imagine a world where the emergency rooms are overwhelmed, inspectors aren't working, and clean facilities are a luxury. That's why having your own medical and sanitation setup isn't optional. It's survival. Start with a comprehensive first aid kit, not the cheap ones filled with 200 Band-Aids and nothing useful. You need trauma supplies: gauze, tourniquets, Israeli bandages, disinfectants, butterfly closures, antiseptic wipes, and medical tape. Add OTC essentials: ibuprofen, acetaminophen, antihistamines, antidiarrheals, electrolyte packets, anti-nausea tablets, and basic cold flu medications. These items become priceless when pharmacies are empty and hospital wait times stretch into days. Next comes sanitation, one of the biggest silent killers in any crisis. Waste disposal becomes a serious threat when water pressure drops or sewer systems back up. You need heavy-duty trash bags, bleach, gloves, hand sanitizer, and a plan for managing waste if toilets stop flushing. A simple bucket toilet with liners, sawdust, and bleach can prevent disease outbreaks that could otherwise race through a household. Foodborne illness will rise dramatically during instability. Just look at the transcript. Contaminated lettuce, tainted sprouts, rat infestations in restaurants. In a collapse, that risk multiplies. That's why hygiene protocols, washing hands, disinfecting surfaces, keeping raw food separated, aren't just nice habits, they're critical defenses. Also prepare for respiratory illness, infections, and minor wounds that can become lethal without antibiotics. If possible, speak with a medical professional about getting standby emergency prescriptions, or look into approved long-term antibiotic options designed for emergency scenarios. Combine this with printed medical guides that work offline. Your action today: build a real medical kit. Add bleach, gloves, and sanitation supplies to your next shopping list. In a collapse, the smallest cut or stomach bug can spiral fast, and the only thing standing between you and disaster will be what you prepared beforehand. Number 5. Security and community planning. When an economic collapse strikes, desperation spreads faster than hunger. It doesn't take weeks, it takes hours. You've seen how people lose control over something as simple as a chicken sandwich in the transcript. Fights, riots, assaults, even a fatal stabbing, all triggered by a shortage of fast food. Now imagine that same level of tension when people can't get bread, fuel, medicine, or clean water. Society becomes unpredictable in an instant, and your safety becomes your responsibility. That's why security and community planning are non-negotiable parts of preparedness. Security doesn't mean turning your home into a fortress. It means reducing the chances that you become a target. Start with basic home hardening: reinforced door locks, window locks, external lighting, and motion detectors. Criminals look for easy wins: dark homes, weak doors, distracted owners. A simple $20 door reinforcement bar can stop a kick-in that would otherwise leave you defenseless. Then consider noise and light discipline. In a blackout, your house being the only one glowing with power, or the smell of hot food drifting outside, can make you a magnet for unwanted attention. Use blackout curtains, cook discreetly, and keep your preparations private. Next, build non-lethal defense tools: pepper spray, tactical flashlights, alarms, and batons. These are legal in most places, easy to learn, and effective when used correctly. If you're comfortable and trained, secure legal self-defense tools that match your local regulations. Knowledge and practice matter more than gear, but individual security only goes so far. The real power comes from community resilience. In every collapse scenario, neighborhoods with communication, cooperation, and shared skills fare drastically better than isolated households. You don't need to announce you're a prepper. Instead, start a neighborhood watch, offer to help with small projects, or casually discuss emergency readiness. Identify people with useful skills: mechanics, nurses, veterans, gardeners. These relationships become life-saving alliances when systems fail. Finally, create a family safety plan: communication methods, rally points, evacuation routes, and who does what in an emergency. Without a plan, people panic. With a plan, people act. Your action today is simple: strengthen one entry point of your home and reach out to one trustworthy neighbor. In a crisis, the strongest asset you'll have, after food and water, is a community that stands together. Number 6. Financial preparedness and barter. When an economic collapse hits, the first shockwave won't come from empty shelves. It will come from the financial system cracking underneath you. Banks tightening withdrawals, ATMs running out of cash, cards declining without warning, and prices doubling overnight. We've already seen how major corporations, some worth billions, collapse under scandal, incompetence, or mismanagement. If companies with endless resources can crumble because of one lawsuit or one PR disaster, what do you think happens when the entire economy is under pressure? That's why financial preparedness isn't about getting rich. It's about not getting trapped when the system starts breaking. Your first layer is cash on hand. In a collapse, digital payments become unreliable fast. You need small bills, ones, five O's, $10, because nobody is giving you change during a crisis. Cash becomes powerful again for essentials like food, fuel, and local services. Even a small emergency stash can keep you afloat when everyone else is standing in line at an empty ATM. Your second layer is barter items, things people want no matter what happens. Tobacco, coffee, painkillers, alcohol, spices, hygiene items, sewing kits, lighters, candles, batteries, and seeds all become unofficial currency. These are cheap today, but priceless during shortages. Even basic things like salt or trash bags become high-value trade items when stores fail. Your third layer is tangible assets, the kind that don't lose value because a server crashes or an app glitches. Tools, water filters, food reserves, fuel, and medical supplies all become wealth in a collapse. The transcripts scandals prove a simple truth. Trust in big systems can evaporate instantly. When you control physical supplies, nobody's incompetence can take them away from you. Then there's diversification. Don't rely on one bank, one card, or one income stream. Spread your risk. A collapse exposes every weakness, especially financial ones. Finally, your fourth layer is the one most people overlook: skills. In a barter economy, the person who can fix things, cook, grow food, teach, or repair tools becomes valuable. Skills never devalue. Skills never inflate. Skills never run out. Your action today: pull out a small amount of emergency cash, pick 5 barter items to stock, and list 3 skills you want to learn or strengthen. In a collapse, the people who prepared early aren't the ones panicking. They're the ones others depend on. Number 7. Important tools and maintenance. When an economic collapse hits, the difference between surviving and suffering often comes down to one simple thing: the tools you have on hand when everything stops working. Think back to the disasters from the transcript: restaurants overrun with filth, equipment failing, critical systems breaking down because nobody maintained them. If billion-dollar chains can't keep a basic ice cream machine running, do you really expect the grid, supply chain, or local repair services to stay dependable when the economy tanks? That's why tools, and the ability to maintain and use them, are a form of power no crisis can take from you. Start with the core essentials: a solid fixed-blade knife, a durable multi-tool, a manual can opener, duct tape, rope, a folding saw, pliers, wrenches, screwdrivers, and heavy-duty gloves. These aren't luxury items, they're the backbone of self-reliance. A broken door, a leaking pipe, a jammed lock, or a fallen branch becomes a minor inconvenience when you have the right tools, but a full-blown emergency when you don't. Next, think off-grid functionality: a hand crank flashlight, a solar charger, rechargeable batteries, a headlamp, and battery-powered lanterns keep you out of the dark, literally and figuratively. In a crisis, darkness breeds fear, confusion, and danger. Light gives you control, safety, and time to think. But tools are useless if you don't know how to maintain them. That's where most people fail. They buy gear, put it in a drawer, and forget about it until the moment they need it. Don't make that mistake. Just like the kitchens from the transcript that failed inspections because nobody cleaned or maintained anything, your gear will fail if you don't take care of it. Keep blades sharpened. Oil moving parts. Rotate batteries. Test flashlights. Practice using everything before an emergency, not during one. Create 2 sets of tools: an everyday kit and an emergency-only kit sealed in a waterproof box. Redundancy protects you when something breaks or goes missing. Your action today: assemble a basic toolkit and choose one simple repair task around your home. Fix a loose hinge, replace a light switch, patch a leak, anything. Every task you complete builds confidence, skill, and resilience. When systems fail, the person who can fix things is the person who thrives. Number 8. Communications and information security. In a full-scale economic collapse, information becomes just as valuable as food and water. When systems break down, rumors spread faster than truth. Panic outweighs logic, and people make catastrophic decisions because they simply don't know what's happening. We've already seen how corporations can mislead consumers, hide scandals, distort facts, and cover up contamination. So imagine the level of confusion when every institution is overwhelmed or offline. That's why having your own communication and information security plan is essential for survival. Start with the basics of receiving information. A battery-powered or solar-powered emergency radio keeps you connected to weather alerts, government broadcasts, and local updates even when the grid fails. During crises, radio becomes the backbone of survival communication because it doesn't rely on cell towers or internet infrastructure. Add spare batteries and keep the radio in an easy-to-reach place. Next, build your family communication plan. When phones fail or signals jam, people panic. Create a simple structure, primary and secondary meeting points, a check-in time twice a day, and a list of family members' responsibilities. Write this down and keep printed copies in backpacks, vehicles, and your home command center. In chaos, clarity saves lives. Then consider short-range communication. Walkie-talkies and handheld radios are extremely effective for neighborhoods, travel, or coordinating with a small group. Even cheap models provide a lifeline when cell service is useless. Agree on channels and practice using them so they're second nature when the pressure hits. Information security is equally important. Back up vital documents, IDs, insurance, deeds, medical records, onto encrypted USB drives and keep printed copies in waterproof bags. In a collapse, losing documentation can make you invisible in the worst way. Keep a discrete folder with serial numbers of appliances, tools, and firearms, if legally owned, to prove ownership if needed later. Also prepare for digital chaos. Banks might glitch. Apps may fail. Online accounts can lock without warning. Don't rely on any single digital platform for communication or critical information. Your action today: buy a basic emergency radio and write a one-page family communication plan. When everyone else is confused, disconnected, and afraid, you'll be the one with clarity, direction, and control. Number 9. Food production and seeds. When an economic collapse drags on, the biggest threat isn't what you don't have, it's what you run out of. No matter how much food you store, it will eventually dwindle. That's why long-term survival depends not just on stockpiling, but on producing your own food. And if the transcript taught us anything, it's that relying on big corporations for clean, reliable food is a gamble. Contamination scandals, mislabeled ingredients, rat-infested kitchens, those happened when everything was still normal. Now imagine what happens when oversight vanishes, supply chains break, and desperation hits every level. Growing your own food becomes more than a skill. It becomes security. Start with heirloom seeds, not hybrid or GMO varieties. Heirloom seeds allow you to harvest new seeds every season, giving you a self-sustaining food supply. They're small, cheap, and nearly weightless, yet capable of producing hundreds of pounds of fresh food. Store them in a cool, dry place inside airtight containers. These are your insurance policy when supermarkets are empty or unaffordable. Next, focus on beginner-friendly crops that require minimal skill but provide maximum calories. Potatoes, beans, tomatoes, peppers, onions, carrots, and lettuce. Even if you've never grown a plant in your life, container gardening makes it accessible. 5-gallon buckets, raised beds, or even simple grow bags can produce food in small spaces: balconies, patios, rooftops, or tiny yards. If you can keep a plant alive, you can feed your family. Don't overlook fruit trees and perennial plants. Apple trees, berry bushes, herbs, and perennial vegetables grow back year after year, providing food with minimal ongoing effort. The earlier you plant them, the sooner they'll feed you. The next step is preservation. Canning, fermenting, and dehydrating allow you to stretch harvests through winter or grid outages. Remember how quickly bacteria and pathogens spread in the transcripts examples? Proper preservation eliminates most of those risks and keeps your family safe. Finally, consider community growing. Shared gardens, seed swaps, and collective harvest efforts multiply your resilience and create local networks you can trust. Your action today: buy one packet of heirloom seeds, anything simple like beans or tomatoes, and plant them within the next week. That single step can turn into a renewable food source that keeps you alive when everything else fails. Number 10. Mindset, training, and the one thing that ties it all together. In every collapse, economic, social, or natural, the people who survive aren't the ones with the biggest stockpile or the fanciest gear. They're the ones with the right mindset. Because when systems fail, when shelves empty, when prices jump overnight, and when the world starts to feel unpredictable, your greatest weapon isn't a tool or a gadget. It's your ability to stay calm, adapt, and act with purpose. The transcript made one thing painfully clear. From outbreaks to scandals to corporate meltdowns, chaos always begins with human failure. And in a real collapse, that human failure becomes widespread. The mindset you build now determines whether you freeze or move forward. Mindset begins with acceptance of responsibility. No one is coming to save you. Not the government, not the stores, not emergency services. Their systems will be overloaded, confused, understaffed, and overwhelmed, just like those restaurants that couldn't even keep rats out of the ceiling or employees from contaminating food. If the most basic parts of society collapse under pressure, your life will depend on your ability to take ownership. Then comes adaptability. You must be ready to improvise. Cook without power, fix things with basic tools, find solutions where others only see problems. Training helps build this confidence. Learn first aid, gardening, water purification, and basic repairs. Practice using your gear before you need it. Do small emergency drills. Each skill you gain replaces fear with control. Next is discipline. Preparedness isn't something you do once. It's a lifestyle. Rotate your food. Check your water supplies. Test your tools. Maintain your equipment. Run family plans twice a year. This consistency turns your home into a fortress of stability even as the world grows uncertain. And finally, there is the one thing that ties everything together: daily action. Just one step a day: storing water, learning a skill, growing a plant, organizing supplies, creates unstoppable momentum. When collapse hits, the people who took one daily step will be calm, organized, and ready, while everyone else panics. Your action today is simple. Choose one preparedness task, any task, and do it before you sleep tonight. Mindset is built through action, and action is what keeps you alive when everything else falls apart. In an economic collapse, hope won't save you. Action will. You now have the blueprint: water, food, tools, security, skills, and mindset. Start today. Store a few gallons of water. Buy one bag of rice. Build one emergency kit. Plant one seed. These small steps stack faster than you think. Don't wait until shelves empty or systems fail. Prepare now, protect your family, and take control of your future, because tomorrow's stability begins with today's choices.